Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have an interesting looking puzzle. Mostly the combinations that I was seeing just from looking at it at a glance, and the name of the title kind of piqued my interest, I guess would be the best way to say it. So it's called Mercury Spill. So the second I saw just the name, I was like, well, this has to be a thermo type of puzzle, and it turns out it is. It's by ViKingPrime, and I can't recall if I've done a puzzle by ViKingPrime before. So if this is the first one, that's great. But let's look into what our rules are so we can see how we're making these interactions be some of these clues. Because as you can see, there's a lot of overlap going on here. So we've got, and I actually like I can't talk. The bold lettering for the specific sections of what the rules are. I think that's a nice little touch. So anywho, we've got normal Sudoku apply. So every row, every column, and 3x3 box will contain the digits 1 through 9 once each. Then we've got digits along a gray thermometer must strictly increase from bulb to tip. So this guy here we click at, this is the bulb, it's the smallest value, and the digits will increase until they get to the tip. They don't have to go in order or anything, they just have to have increasing values. Then box borders divide blue region sum lines into segments of equal sums. So on this guy right here, these two digits, whatever they add up to will create a value. These two digits will have to equal that same value because they're crossing over a border, a box border. And then finally, we have black Kropki dots separate digits where one is double the other. So we've got a couple of those in here. Whatever this digit is, this one has to be either half or double of it. And that's it. So those are the rules. Nothing majorly complicated, but just the look of how these are interacting with each other. Like I said previously, kind of piqued my interest. So with that said, link is in the description below. Let's get started on this thing. So it's going to be somewhat interesting to try to pick out where we need to work here. Because we know there's going to be some interactions between these region sum lines that are going to give us some information. Now, there are also a couple of other little bits of information we can kind of work out, because we know we kind of have a weird X-wing type situation of ones, I think, because we know one of these is gonna, because none of these can be ones, so one of these will be a 1. If you look at this row as well, we have a similar, so one of these will be a 1. So no matter whether the one, let me change how I say that. If the one in this row is over here, then the 1 is going to have to occur over here in this row. Opposite would be if the one's over here, then that one would have to be a 1. So there is a little intricacy of how the ones interact. Now, the same must be said for the 9. So actually we can just write in, not necessarily a given digit, but in this row, we have 1s and 9s. And everything in between, from 2 to 8, must fill the rest of this. So, what does that tell us? And do we have any other rows or columns that are going to give us a similar type of look? I don't necessarily see something. I guess, well, I was going to say something that's not quite. I was thinking about 2s in here and whether they followed our 1, but I don't believe they must do so, because we could easily put a 2 up here somewhere. Okay, so the other thing was thinking about how the region sum is going to affect the thermo. Now, if we look at these guys, the region sums seem to be consistent with how you would think of a thermo. So you have these two digits, which which are lower digits, which are going to have to add up to a higher digit. All of these are like that. These are slightly different because we're going to have a low-ish digit with some other digit that has to add up to a, I'll say mid-ish digit. So thinking about how those could work with each other. Is there something in here that becomes more apparent when you think about it in the entirety of a row or a column? Now, it's the other thing we can think of, and we go back to our 1s and 9s, is we know so whichever one it is, whichever region, it doesn't really matter. Let's say this is the 1. Well, what does that say about where the 9 can go? It says that this would be a 9, obviously. But if this is a 1, none of these could be 9. So there is a 9 on whatever the 1 side is. And again, we don't know which one that is. And what that does is it removes the possibility of a 9 being any one of these 3, which is helpful because in this region, we know that none of these 3 could be 9s by a couple of reasons at this point. And then if none of these can be, one of these is. So we're forcing 1s and 9s into certain areas to start with. Now, can we continue to push digits around? Because we can think about particularly 5s and 7s. Because we have these black Kropkis here for a reason. We know 5s can, and 5, 7s, and 9s, but we've already ruled out the 9s, so it doesn't really matter in that particular sense. But 5s and 7s can never go on a black Kropki. A 7 can never go in either one of these locations because it would have to be 7, 8, 9, and 7 plus 8 obviously does not equal 9. So actually we'll remove 7 from all of those. So this is a 7. Now, the one, I was hoping to be able to put another digit in here. I'm not quite sure. Well, yes, I can. We can say the exact same thing for 5s because we know none of these can be 5s. If either one of these was a 5, the next lowest digit on the thermo would be a 6. Well, 5 plus 6 clearly can't get up to anything. So this ends up just being a 5, 7, 9 grouping, which forces these guys to be essentially everything in between. Now, we also now can look back at our 8s. 8s are ruled out here. None of these can be 8s on the thermos because it would be 8, 9, and then we'd break. So one of these 2 is an 8, which means that we are pairing a 4 with it on one of the black Kropkis. What about 6 is going to follow the same rule? We can't do 6 because 6, 7 goes beyond. So these end up being a 6, 8 pair, and we can get rid of the 1s in those possibilities, which means these are a 3, 4, did the wrong one there. These are a 3, 4 pair. And these then end up being a 1, 2 pair. So obviously whichever side is our 1 goes with our 2. Whichever side is our 9 goes with our 1. Okay. Can we go further? Yes. So we know the 4 has to go with the 5, whichever side it's on. We're just going to keep marking these. And that will force a 9, because 4 plus 5 must equal 9. Now the 3 cannot go with a 5 on the other, so whichever side it is. So let's say this is the 4, 5, 9. If we did a 3 here, the next highest would be a 4, and it would have to be a 4, because it can't be a 5, and it couldn't be a 6. First off, because a 3 goes with a 6, and 3, 6 would equal 9, and then we'd have 2 9s. So whatever, so we have a 4, 5 pair now. And what else? And the 3, which goes with the 4, is going to equal a 7. So we're looking at 7s and 9s. So we know a couple of things. One of these is 3, 4, 7. The other one is 4, 5, 9. Whichever one is the 3 obviously goes with the 6. Whichever one is the 4 goes with the 8. Let's keep thinking about all of this. And can we start to think about what these can be? Now, this might be a little bit more involved. Well, let's think of it from this perspective and having the 4, 5 grouping now. Yeah, so whichever, well, it's not entirely true. I thought it was going to be. If we had a 5 in one of these two, this guy would have, or whichever one it was, would have to be a 3 with a 1, 2 grouping of some sort. But the wrench that gets thrown is, if this is a 5, it does not force this to be a 3. It could be 2, then 1 like that, instead of 2, 1 or 1, 2. So, we can also rule out 8s from any of these. But that pushes them out into these regions, which is still quite open. What else is there? So these guys, let's think about these guys a little further. Because again, they could be a 3, or they could be anything between 5 and 9, so 6, 7, or 8. How does that affect us in this puzzle, if it even does? Well, I guess, okay. We can say that neither one of these can be 8. So it does push an 8 into here. Is that anything worth looking at? No, not at the moment. Okay. The next thing would be what? Do we have a similar issue with 6s is in any way? The answer to that is actually no, because we could put a 6 in one of these two. The 6 would go with a 2 to get us an 8 in one of these two. So that doesn't get ruled out. Oh, of course, these can't be 7s. Which means one of these is a 7. That's something to think about. And if one of them is a 7, it goes with a 1, which is going to rule out the 6. Because if we have to put a 7 in one of these two, it has to go with a 1 clue, because we don't have 7 or 9 available, so therefore 7 plus 1 would equal 8. Now, if we know one of them must add up to 8, that forces the 6 into here, because we can't put the 6 here because it would go with the 2, which is left over, to create another 8. So these are from 6 and 8. At least we've got it to that point. Now, we can't put 2s in any of the, well, no, that's not true. This one, of course, can still be 2. These guys can't be 2s. What about 3? I don't think we can make a determination there. Because all that we're missing now, essentially, from this row is where does a 2 go? Where does a 3 go? Where does the 7 go? And we said we know one of these is a 7. Let's put that in. We know one of these is an 8. We can't put a 5 in either of these. So the 7 goes with the 1. What is going to go with the 2? Let's think of it that way. It obviously can't be a 2. Oh, so that does rule out the 2. No matter what, the 2 must go in this row. Because we've got a 7 that has to go with the 1, which forces a 2 onto the other side. And now there's no place to put 2s. Okay, so let's put that in. We've got 2, 6, and 8 that are now forced into these. These have to be 3 and 7. The 3 will go with the 2, so this is a 5, 8 pair. Okay, we're making progress here. Really do have to think about how all of these things are interacting with each other, which is quite interesting. So we know one of these is a 2, which forces a 1 into one of these. Oh, we know these are not the 2s. We already said that previously. Because if this is a 2, this has to be a 1-1 pair. So we get our 2, which forces our 1. Now, I was going to say there has to be a 1 in one of these, but that solved that portion of it. Now, what are the remaining options here? Oh, well, actually, let's think about it differently. If these are 6s and 8s, these can't be 5s. So this is our 5. Now let's go back to this for a second. So this thermo is just set. And then we have all of these. So one of these region sums is going to be a 6 and the other is an 8. Can we determine how those can be formulated? We can, because the 6, whichever one it is, must have a 2-4 grouping. Because there's only 2 ways to make 6 in 2 digits, 1, 5, or 2, 4. The 1 is out. So I'm going to put 2, 4. We'll put them in both of them. And let's think about the 8. What could the 8 be made of? And again, it can't now be, because we know one of them is a 2, 4, the other one, to make the 6 that is, the other one is going to have to be able to make an 8, but we've just reduced a lot of possibilities of what the 8 can be made out of, because it can't be made out of 7, 1, it can't be made out of 6, 2, and it could never be 4, 4. So it is 5, 3. So we have 5, 3. So those are the options, and neither of these can be 5s, so neither of these can be 3s. Okay, so the 6 is a 2, 4 pair in some grouping. The 8 is a 3, 5 pair, 3, 5, depending on which side it's on. Now, we know we can write these in. They're 1, 3, and 4, and this one can't be a 1. Have we further reduced anything else at the moment. I don't think we have. What about these guys now? Because we know there is a given 3 in one of these two. The other one, we can't say whether it's the 2 or the 4 that sits up here. But we do know that one of these is a 6. And that will obviously go on the opposite side of where the 6-3 pair goes. So these are 2, 4, 6 as possible options. Okay. We've got some information. We need to now figure out how we can start to disseminate some of this stuff. Well, I was going to say, is there one? We can start thinking about these guys as well a little bit. Because we know one of these is a 1. We know one of these is a 9. But we can't quite tell which one is which. The 9s in particular, if we end up putting a 9 here, that will force the 9 off of this and onto here. If the 9 goes over here, it does not have that effect. Okay. Let's put 3 like this, just so we know it's in one of those two. Then we can, I guess we can start to think about these guys. Because we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 already done. So these are from 6, 7, 8, and 9s. This can't ever have a 9. Or can it? Actually, it can. I was going to say we couldn't do a 9 here because it would create a digit or a value that we can't get to from here, but maybe we can. And that may actually be what starts determining what some of this stuff is. So, we could have a 9 only if it's a 9-6 pairing. Because that would get us to 15, and we would still be able to do the 8-7 pairing. Now, does that break anything with the options that we put in here? Because we have to go back and think about what they all were. Because I think they turned out, if we figure out which side is which, everything falls into place. Because we said one of them was 3, 4, 7, which forces a 6. That means, well, the 3, 4, 7 does that, and that forces this to be the 1, 7, 8. So that's very close to getting us there, because if we determine that the 9 goes on this, it will tell us this is an 8-7, and then it'll set all of this because it removes all those options. But I don't think we can make that determination just yet. Let's think about this guy, because I hadn't gone back to it in a little bit. Well, I hadn't really looked at it at all, to be honest with you. We know it's a black Kropki, so it can't have 5, 7, or 9. It also can't have 1 or 2 on it. So it's either a 4-8 pair or it's a 3-6 pair. Sadly, that doesn't help us. I was hoping it would have some interaction with these guys to help break down what it can be. But it doesn't seem to do so. So you gotta think a little bit harder. Again, we know one of these is a 1. We know one of these is a 9. I don't see necessarily how these guys are helping us just yet. But I could just be missing something. Very possible. So where are we? What do we need to focus on? Because there's nothing left that we can do with these at the moment until we figure out what all this stuff is. Three, 4, 7, 4, 5, 9. Two, 4. Oh wait, this can't. No, that doesn't help us. I was gonna say something that would break these, but that would never happen anyway, so I'll have to forget that for a second. What is it? There has to be some way to correlate these guys into this picture at this point. If this is a 9-6, does that create any other issues? And the 9-6 position doesn't obviously matter, or it can't necessarily be determined at the moment. Because if we know this is a 6, that does create lots of things going on. If either one of these is a 6, it's setting all of this. Because these would have to be 4, 8. This would have to be 3. We would have a 6 with either a 7 or a 9, and this would be the other value of 7 or 9. Yeah, so that doesn't seem like it's got there either. Is there anything else more obvious? I really hate to put in options on all these because it could be so varied. Again, the only thing we know is that one of these does start with the 1 and one of them does end with the 9. Three, 4, 7, 4, 5, 9. Two, 3, 5, and 1, 7, 8. No, those were 6 and 8s. Whatever one is the 6 goes with the 7. Whichever one is the 8 obviously goes with the 9. One of these is a 5 as well. I don't believe that's doing much for us, but is there some way to kind of do similar what we did over here and to correlate each side with some kind of requirement? Oh wait, this could never be a 9-6. That should have been obvious. Because of the fact that it creates an 8-7 over here, and this is broken. And if this cannot be a 9-6, it can't be a 9-7 or a 9-8, because there's no other way to make these. So this is not 9. Let's start there. So one of these two is. So what can this be? And maybe that will start to push something over here. This could be 13 if this is 6 and 7. And if that's the case, this would have to be a 9-4 because it couldn't be an 8-5. So let's think about it that way. So if this is a 6-7, that is 13. There's only two ways to make 13 otherwise, 9-4 and 8-5. 8-5 would never work, so we'd be looking at a 9-4. What if this was a 6-8? We're at 14. The only way to make 14 then is 9-5. If this is 8-7, we're at 15. The only way to make 15 is 9-6. There must be a 9 on this portion, and I think that's going to set everything free. Let's just make sure that's accurate. If this is a 6-7, we're at 13. We cannot do 5-8 to get, so we have to go 9-4. If it's 6-8, we're at 14. The only ways to make 14 are 8-6, which we've already used, and 9-5. If it's 8-7, we're at 16. Or 8-7, we're 15. The only way to do is 9-6. Yeah, there's a 9 here. So this is 7, which means this is 4 and 3. This is 6. This is 9, which is 4 and 5. And this is 8. We now know that this is 7. So this is 1 and 8. This is 2 and 3 and 5. The 1 here gives us our 9 and our 1. This is no longer a 6, so this is 6. This is not 9, so this is. This is not 6. So this could never add up to 15, so this is not an 8-7 pair, which means it has a 6 on it, which means these are not 6s. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. We can put in these digits. I don't know how useful it'll be, but we can do it. 2, 5, and 8. This has to be 6, 7, and 9. This is not 9. This is not 6. This is not 8. Okay, just have that in our pocket for the moment. Okay, now this is either 9-4 or 9-5, so it's either 13 or 14. So again, it's either 6-7 or 6-8. This can't be 9, so this is 9, which gives us that 6-7-8 pairing, or triple. These did not, we can't finalize those just yet, but we should be able to get there in a bit. There has to be a 5 over here somewhere. 6, 7s, and 8s. Is there any way we can put any other digits on here? Let's think about this being either 7 or 8. What are the options of 7s? Well, it can't be 6-1. And it can't be 5-2. It would have to be 3-4 with the 3 here and a 4 here. What if it was 8? It can't be 7-1 because the 7 has to go over here. It can't be 6-2 and it can't be 5-3. This is not 8. It's 7. 4, 3. Therefore, this is 7, or sorry, hit the wrong button. It is 6-8, which is 14, which means this is 5. This is not anymore. These two digits have to be from 1 and 2. They're not quite resolved. Let's get rid of this for the moment. The 7 now is going to break this all up. That's 9. That's 7, 6, 8. We said the 6 had to go with either 2 or 4. The 8 went with the 3, 5. So we'll get rid of our 3s and our 5s. So you've got a 2-4 pair, which means this is not 4. We've got a 3, which removes the 3 here. And we're getting somewhere. Okay. Now, we don't know how this 2-4 grouping works out. We do know there has to be an 8 over here, and there has to be a 7 over here. We know there has to be a 6 in one of these two, and there has to be a 4 over here somewhere. That works. So we can't put, well, we don't know there's a 4 over here, sorry. Let's not go down that road, because the 4 could still be here. Okay. 3. 3 was the other digit. One of these has to be a 3. And, oh, let's go back to our 9, 1, because we said if this is a 9, that can't be, so this is. So we can go and do that. The 1 has not reared its head yet. This guy hasn't fully resolved, but this is a 7 by Sudoku. Okay. What next? I feel like we've gotten into the big break here. So this is 7, 8 with either 1 or 2. I don't know if I really want to put that in just yet, because we can only just remove 1 from here and 2 from here. So let's think elsewhere again. Maybe we can go down these columns and see how that interacts with our thermos. What has to go in this region? And that might break this up too. So we have to have a 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to have a 6. There we go. This is not a 3, 6. It's a 4, 8 pair. So this is 3. This is 1. This is 4. This is 6. This is 8. Good. We also had a 6 there. I think that would have maybe broken some of this up, but that's whatever. Let's go here. Now we can go back here. This set is 1, 2, and 6. These are 3 and 5. Okay. 6, 7, 8, 9. This can't be 6. So this is either 1 or 2. We're going to have to be able to figure out what these guys do here. And can we do that just yet? We know one of these is a 3, and this one can't be. Go by Sudoku. Let's just do that. One of these is a 4. This one could be. So let's look down Sudoku here for a second and go from there, so we don't miss anything that could be obvious. So we have a lot of 3s and things like that, but a lot of 5s. One of these is a 5. What about those 6s? Not really. 7s on the other side. One of these is 7. This one, no, this can't be 7 because this can't be 8. So we'll probably end up having to come down the line from all of these. Actually, this can't. No, it can be. Okay. It could be 4 or 5. Because, no, it can't be. Because we can't use 2, 3, or 4 here. So if this was a 4, this would have to be a 1. If this was a 5, this has to be a 1. This is not 4 or 5. So these are a 4 or 5 pair. That's good. It's going to tell us what the options are here, and then maybe we can just break that out, similar like we did. So we need a 2, and it can't be a 2. So if it can't be a 2 here, this is our 2, and that's going to break these up. Beautiful. That's exactly what we needed. So this is what's left over, which is 7 and 9. It can't be 9, so it is 7. This has to be 8. This has to be 8 and 7 by Sudoku now. This is 1. This is 2. You're not 2. You're not 5. Okay, that hasn't quite broken, but that's fine. What do these have to be? 1, 3, and 6, and this is not 1, 6, or 3. Let's get rid of these guys to kind of clean that up a little bit. All right, let's continue on the trek. The 7 gives us our 6. This 7 gives us the 9 and the 7. So we should be able to fill out all this stuff now. We need a 2 and a 3. In fact, we're going to have an X-wing on 3, so let's look at that. Thought it might do a little bit more. That's fine. We'll continue on this little trek here. What can these be? We need a 1, a 6, and a 9. Well, this can't be 1 or 9, so it is 6. Okay. Now, this 8 gives us the 4 and the 8. What are these guys left over with? We need 1, 2, 3, and 5. Clearly, neither of these can be 5. So this is 5. This is 3. This is 1 or 2. We have a 2 to break that up, and we should be golden now. Because all we have left really is Sudoku. So 6, 3, 1. And that 5 broke up the 2, the 8, and the 5. And now we'll put in our last bits of information. This is a 4, 6. This is a 2, 7, appears to be. And that's going to be what we need, but let's just finish this first. These have to be 8 and 9. That works as well. So let's do our 2 and our 7, which crosses to 3 and 2, which crosses back to 5 and 3, which crosses back to 4 and 5, which crosses back to 6 and 4, as we just keep going back and forth. 6 goes to 1 and 6. That 8 here, well, let's just do it this way. 9, 1, 8, and 9. And there we go. You saw the puzzle solution is correct. So that one was a lot of fun. It really did require a lot of picking through to see what all of the options were and how they could possibly excuse me, interact with each other. And after quite a bit of deliberation, we were able to figure out what did what. So I love how that all came together at the end, even though we did really have to go through a lot to get to it, but that's what makes some puzzles so much fun. You have to really work your way to a certain bit of option, and there's going to be one thing, wherever it may be, that will break things and start the flow of digits. So anyway, love that puzzle. ViKingPrime, thank you for setting this one. Like I said, I can't recall if I've done one of their puzzles before, but it was a great puzzle. Hope you all enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot.